At its peak, the Roman Empire controlled vast territories across Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. Its armies seemed invincible, its economy unmatched, and its culture deeply influential. Yet within a few centuries, it crumbled into fragmented kingdoms. How could a civilization so dominant fall so quickly? The answer lies not in a single event, but in a combination of political failures, military weakness, economic instability, and social changes. The Roman Empire began as a small group of settlements on the Italian peninsula. Over time, it expanded through alliances, wars, and strategic governance. Rome transitioned from monarchy to republic and later to empire, maintaining a careful balance between military might and political administration. During the Republic era, Rome built its power through constant warfare and careful integration of conquered peoples. The system of granting varying degrees of citizenship helped solidify loyalty. However, internal tensions between the patrician elites and plebeian masses persisted, eventually contributing to political instability. The Punic Wars against Carthage in the 3rd and 2nd centuries BCE established Rome as the dominant force in the Western Mediterranean. Rome expanded aggressively into Greece, Asia Minor, and other territories following these victories. These conquests enriched Rome's elites, but widened the gap between rich and poor. Small farmers, unable to compete with the vast estates of wealthy aristocrats, lost their lands and migrated to the cities, fueling urban unrest. Political corruption worsened as generals gained personal loyalty from their troops. Figures like Julius Caesar capitalized on this loyalty, leading to civil wars destabilizing the Republic. Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE failed to restore balance. Instead, it led to further conflict and the eventual rise of Augustus, Rome's first emperor. Under Augustus and his successors, Rome enjoyed a period known as the Pax Romana. The empire maintained relative peace, economic prosperity, and stable governance for about 2 centuries. During this time, cities flourished, trade expanded, and infrastructure projects like roads and aqueducts were built across the empire. The administrative system evolved, separating provinces into senatorial and imperial zones to manage governance more effectively. Despite the apparent strength, problems were growing beneath the surface. The imperial system depended heavily on the emperor's ability to maintain loyalty among elites and the military. Weak or corrupt rulers could quickly destabilize the system. Moreover, the massive size of the empire made communication and administration increasingly difficult. The economy depended on continuous conquest, which supplied new wealth, land, and slaves. When expansion slowed, the empire struggled to maintain its economic structure. Inflation and currency devaluation began as early as the reign of Nero in the 1st century CE, when silver content in coins was reduced to stretch financial resources. By the 3rd century, these internal pressures exploded into a crisis. The assassination of Emperor Severus Alexander in 235 CE triggered a period historians call the Crisis of the 3rd Century. Over the next 50 years, dozens of generals seized power through force, often ruling only briefly before being overthrown or killed. Civil wars drained resources and weakened frontier defenses, while invasions by Germanic tribes and Persian forces threatened the borders. Emperors minted more coins with less precious metal to meet growing financial demands, causing rampant inflation. Merchants and citizens lost trust in the currency, turning to barter systems. Agricultural production declined, and rural populations shrank as peasants fled taxation and military requisitions. Compounding these issues, a deadly epidemic known as the Plague of Cyprian ravaged the empire between 249 and 262 CE. Massive mortality among civilians and soldiers further weakened Rome's ability to defend itself and maintain economic productivity. During this time, some regions like Gaul and Britain broke away to form independent states such as the Gallic Empire. Rome's centralized power eroded as local leaders and military commanders prioritized regional stability over imperial unity. The Emperor Diocletian, rising to power in 284 CE, implemented sweeping reforms to address the crisis. He introduced the Tetrarchy, dividing rule among 4 emperors to better manage the vast territory. Administrative structures multiplied, provinces were split into smaller units, and military presence increased across the frontiers. Diocletian also attempted to control inflation through an edict setting maximum prices for goods and wages. However, this measure largely failed as black markets flourished. Diocletian's policies stabilized the empire temporarily, but imposed higher taxes and heavier bureaucracy, further burdening the population. His abdication in 305 CE reopened the struggle for succession, culminating in Constantine's rise to sole power in 324 CE. Constantine introduced critical changes, including the legalization of Christianity through the Edict of Milan. He also founded a new capital, Constantinople, strategically located for trade and defense. The gold solidus, a high-purity coin he introduced, restored some monetary stability, especially in the eastern provinces. However, systemic problems persisted, particularly in the West. The Western Empire faced greater economic difficulties, frequent invasions, and a declining population. The eastern half, wealthier and more urbanized, managed to maintain stronger defenses and administrative structures. The entry of barbarian groups into Roman territory further weakened the empire. Groups like the Visigoths, initially allowed to settle within Roman borders as allies, retained their leaders and laws, undermining Roman authority. The Battle of Adrianople in 378 CE, where Roman forces suffered a crushing defeat against the Visigoths, revealed deep vulnerabilities in military strategy. Central authority disintegrated as more federated groups like the Vandals, Franks, and Burgundians settled within the empire. Western provinces became increasingly autonomous, with landowners negotiating directly with barbarian leaders for protection. Tax revenues declined, administrative efficiency collapsed, and the state could no longer maintain public infrastructure or military pay. Religious institutions, particularly the Christian Church, stepped into the vacuum left by the failing state. Bishops provided social services, negotiated with invaders, and maintained some degree of order. In many cities, ecclesiastical leaders became more influential than imperial officials. The sack of Rome by the Visigoths in 410 CE marked a psychological turning point. Although Rome was no longer the administrative center, its fall symbolized the decline of imperial power. In North Africa, the Vandals captured key territories, cutting off vital grain supplies to Italy. The loss of resources accelerated the collapse. By the mid-5th century, the Western Empire relied almost entirely on barbarian mercenaries for its defense. These groups increasingly acted independently, establishing their kingdoms in former Roman territories. In 476 CE, the Germanic leader Odoacer deposed the last Western Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus, marking the formal end of the Western Empire. Odoacer ruled Italy in his name, recognizing the Eastern Emperor in Constantinople only nominally. Although the Western Roman Empire ceased to exist, many aspects of Roman culture, law, and language persisted through the emerging barbarian kingdoms. Latin remained the dominant language of administration and scholarship. Roman law influenced the development of medieval legal systems. The Christian Church, centered increasingly on the Bishop of Rome, maintained continuity with the Roman past. Meanwhile, the Eastern Roman Empire, later known as the Byzantine Empire, continued for nearly 1,000 more years. Its strong economy, stable gold currency, and fortified capital allowed it to survive until 1453, when Constantinople finally fell to the Ottoman Turks. The fall of the Western Roman Empire was not a sudden collapse, but a gradual transformation driven by internal decay, external pressures, and shifting political realities. If you found this breakdown helpful, please comment below, sharing your thoughts on the fall of Rome. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more historical insights every week.